I'm Mary Valamides, and I'm going to share with you the second grade 6 weeks curriculum preview. For this 6 weeks, you're going to be finishing talking about AM and PM, going over data, personal financial literacy, giving a CBA, transitioning to third grade, and going over the addition, subtraction, and multiplication facts and concepts. So you're going to finish Unit 8. The only thing left is time, which you'll have 3 days to finish. So you'll see in this calendar where it's highlighted that that's the amount of time that you have, as well as giving a CFA if you would like. So for 18.4, going over time, 2.9G, you're going to read and write time to the nearest 1 minute increment using analog and digital clocks and distinguish between AM and PM. And that last part is what you're going to be working on, distinguishing AM and PM. So here are a few points that you might want to share with your kids, as well as a few videos that might help the kids understand AM and PM. Then after that, for 10.5 days, you're going to be going over data analysis. And anything highlighted in light green shows you where we are in the calendar for data. I just want to share with you in first grade, the kids learned how to collect, sort, and organize data up to 3 categories. In second, we're going to extend that to 4, using models representations such as tally marks or T-charts. And then 1.8b, use data to create picture and bar type graphs. We're going to extend that to include tally marks or T-charts. And then in second grade. And then again, 1.8c, draw conclusions and generate and answer questions using information from picture and bar type graphs. We're going to extend that even a little bit further to include intervals of more than 1. So now that you know what first grade is learning, 2.10a, explain the length of the bars, and now we're explaining it, giving examples of what that means, or the number of pictures in a pictograph, and how that represents the number of data points for a given category. In bar graphs, you will be using intervals of 1, and here's an activity that you could use for that. In 2.10b, you're going to be, again, going over categories up to 4 categories, and with pictographs and bar graphs, and having intervals of 1 or more. Now, the kids know, they've learned in first grade how to talk about the differences and similarities, which has more, which has least, when comparing categories. However, notice in second grade, you're going to be solving simple one-step problems using the information from the graph. So here's an example of what a graph may look like, such as a pictograph with intervals more than 1. The stick figures each mean 4 students. So if you look at chocolate chips, it only has 3 stick figures, but they stand for 4 plus 4 plus 4, which would be 12. So really, it's 12 people who like chocolate chip. That is a completely new concept with your kids, so you might want to demonstrate that with an activity. You might have something like candy or something that you're demonstrating what that really means. 2.10b, an example of this, the second graders are responsible for purchasing ice cream for an open house event at school. So they decided to collect data to determine which flavors to buy. So here's just a few examples of what you can do. And that Team A and Team B, they can use different types of graphs to graph the information that they gathered. So you can assign each team a different graph, and maybe have a graph, one team using intervals more than 1. And here's another example of what a pictograph might look like. You might ask yourself, what's the difference between a picture graph and a pictograph? A picture graph actually has a picture of what the item looks like. A pictograph has a representation, such as in this pictograph, we don't have pictures of dogs, we have circles to represent the dog. So that's the difference between the two. NCTM also has an activity as well as the Region 11 Live Binder. So here's a couple of activities you might want to check out. 2.10c, remember we're going to be doing one-step word problems involving addition or subtraction with intervals of 1. So looking at this, the kids are going to write problems from the data that they collected, and then they will share their graphs and their word problems for a partner to solve. In 2.10d, the kids are going to draw conclusions and make predictions. Now, up to this point, they've only drawn conclusions, and now we're going to go one step further and have the kids make predictions based on those conclusions. So one thing you might want to look at one activity is in Eduphoria, Lucy's Lemonade Stand. Unit 10, Personal Financial Literacy. You have about 6.5 days to cover that. So notice a light green area. The half comes in with this day, May 9th. If you choose to give this Math CBA on May the 9th, then you have a half day remaining. If not, you may give the Math CBA on May 18th. So in first grade, the kids learn how to define money earned as income. They identify income as a means of obtaining goods and services, making choices between wants and needs, distinguish between spending and saving, and consider charitable giving. So now in second grade, 2.11a, the kids will calculate how money saved can accumulate into a larger amount over time. You know, that's a hard concept for kids to visualize. If they save their money, they'll have a bigger amount. So there are some activities that's available in Eduphoria, as well as you might read this story, Spend or Save, on this link, using this link. 2.11b, it's also taught in social studies. Explain that saving is an alternative to spending. 2.11c, the kids are going to need to distinguish between a deposit and a withdrawal, and they have to understand those terms. And then 2.11d, they identify examples of borrowing and distinguish between responsible and irresponsible borrowing. So they'll have to define those terms as well. You might want to make a connection with these terms using how they borrow books from the library. And what would responsible borrowing be? And what would irresponsible borrowing be? Then 2.11e, the kids have to give examples of lending and using examples of benefits and cost to evaluate lending decisions. So the kids need to be able to define lending and loans. Then on 2.11f, the kids will be differentiating between producers and consumers and calculate the cost. Simple items that they might use is shown here is including a shirt, a picture of lemonade, or class art projects. And then we don't include interest with that. Now resources, some resources are listed here that are available in Eduphoria. And vocabulary, notice we have a lot of new words for this 6 weeks that's for our new vocabulary. Here's a vocabulary game that you can do with the kids. This is similar to Pictionary. And then you're ready to transition to third grade with place value. And we'll be covering that for 10 days. And you'll notice that's the light green areas that are highlighted in the rest of the calendar. So what we're going to be talking about is 3.2a. Notice that 3.2a talks about using expanded notation. In other words, they use multiplication when they're going over their place value. So it's different from expanded form. Notice in second grade we said 30,000 plus 5,000 plus 600 plus 70 plus 8. But now in third grade, we're going to say it's 3 times 10,000, 5 times 1,000, 6 times 100, 7 times 10, and 8 times 1 to demonstrate 35,678. One thing you might want to use is just limit this number, maybe to just 1,000. Don't go into 10,000 and use base 10 blocks to show the kids that it's 8 times units, 7 times the rods, 6 times the flats, and 5 times the cubes. So that's one example that you can use with this. There's a resource available, and it's ESE Lesson 3.2a in Eduphoria, which looks like this, that the kids could use. It's really important when you're teaching this to show them the standard form, then the expanded notation form, and then how to say it, 98,020. we do not use the word and when reading a number. So when reading this number, 98,020, we do not say the word and, because in math in 4th grade, it begins meaning a decimal point. So then next thing you'll cover is 3.2b, and here you're going to describe the mathematical relationships found in the base 10 place value system. And here kids have to describe that 100 is 10 tens. So here we'll see that 100 is 10 times 10. We have 10 tens make 100, and then 10 hundreds make 1,000. 10 thousands make tens of thousands. There's an ESC lesson 3.2b available in Eduforia that you can use for this activity. And then 3.2c, we talk about 2 consecutive multiples of 10, 100, and 1,000 that you're representing a number by. So here the kids are supposed to describe the relative size of the numbers in order to round whole numbers, a brand new concept. So if you can have the kids start estimating, kind of rounding, we kind of did that with time, where AM and PM was it closer to the hour or half hour in 1st grade. So now we get to do it with numbers using a number line. So we will use words such as closest to, nearly, or just about, such as 36 is closer to 40 because it's just 4 away instead of 30, which is 6 away. Then there's an ESC lesson about games. For games, it's Shake, Rattle, and Roll, and a few other games available as well, such as the Great Roundup. Then you're going to finish up the year with addition and subtraction review and a multiplication review. And you can use the resource in Texas Go Math. There's a fact fluency component, and when you go to resources in math, you'll see it's called Strategies and Practice for Skills and Fact Fluencies, primary K through 3, and it has some activities that you can use for this particular section, as well as a basic fact strategy sheet. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful rest of the year. I'll see you soon. Bye.